Oh, there I go. There it goes. Okay.
Okay. Hi, Sue. Sue Choi. Nice to see you. Suzanne, Jane, Carmel. How do you say it? Carmel? Carmel? I'll unmute you.
Hi.
How do you?
Australians say Carmel, but in America I'm Carmel usually. Because of the town Carmel, California.
Yeah, I guess.
You have to unmute everybody? No, just here.
Hello, Bonnie Angeli. Been a long time.
Even longer since I saw Elle, okay. Huh.
Erica, have we met before? Come on. Yeah, I got
I've
you.
not met. Yeah, I was at the end of the last meeting, and my daughter's just gotten me onto her computer, which I hope doesn't die.
Uh-huh.
Don't have a camera on my other big computer, so that's where I'm at.
Well, there you are. I see you walking around, so.
Yeah. Good. And I'm going to meet you this weekend.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I'll look forward to that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
All right. One more minute.
All right. Why don't we get people come in as we go? That's fine. So I'm Laura Yedwab, and I'm going to facilitate this call today. I really want to welcome everyone. So glad to see you all. So the topic of this call is why become a Feldenkrais practitioner, and really excited about that. So I thought I'd do is just talk briefly about the agenda, and then we could jump in. I want to spend a little bit of time introducing the staff. I also like people to introduce themselves. I want to check, has people on the phone call, people on this call, have you all seen the FeldenkraisTrainingAcademy.com website? Not yes, not no. Anybody know? Okay, good. Oh, I think that was a no from Erica, but all right. I just wanted to check on that. So then for the main part of the call, we'll start with the staff talking a little bit about their own stories of why they became practitioners, and then really open it up for Q&A and have a chance for us to answer questions about that. And then a little bit of time at the end for next steps. So we've really brought together an amazing staff for Feldenkrais Training Academy. The educational director is, of course, Jeff Haller, who has, I don't know, been involved in more than 30 trainings, learned with Moshe, and is really a master, both as a practitioner and as a trainer. Andrew Gibbons will be assistant trainer and will be very much part of the staff. Lila Hurwitz is our administrator.
Oh, you've muted me.
Allison Rapp is also trainer and will be really focused on helping our students and us to really understand what does it take to have a business. To not just know the skills required to be a Feldenkrais practitioner, but to have everything else required to actually run a business and have a livelihood from it. And people, excuse me, I think that's all the staff. People jumped around there as other people came on to the call. So I thought maybe we just spend a minute if everybody could just give their name, what they do, and one thing that they really enjoy doing that's not work. So what do you do for work? And one thing you really enjoy outside of work. So maybe Carmel, if we could start with you, and Jeff. Jeff will do the unmuting.
I will, in fact.
Oh,
There you go.
hi. I graduated from the Feldenkrais training in Melbourne in 2013, and I am part-time as a practitioner, and I enjoy music, playing music, and lots of things.
Great, great, thank you.
Are you living here in the States, or are we talking to you from Australia?
No, I'm in Australia. It's 10 o'clock in the morning in Queensland.
Ah,
But I live in New South Wales in area.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe Jane. I'm going to do this in order that I see you, which might not be the same on your Zoom. So
I have it.
I live in Japan. I've been living here for like 25 years. I'm a part-time everything. I part-time teaching English. I part-time yoga teacher, and I've started doing just gymnastics class just because I just want to. I've since doing ATMs and finding like Feldenkrais, I just found like yoga is very static, and I just sort of felt better in my body. So I just wanted to see how far I could take it with gymnastics. So that's my hobby at the moment.
great, thank you. And Suzanne?
A second, I'm a little slow here. Go ahead, Suzanne.
My name is Suzanne, and I'm in Colorado, and I'm trained as a cell biologist, but most recently a Pilates instructor. But right now I am caring for elderly parents. So that's my full-time job right now. And things that I like to do, outdoors, mountain biking, skiing, that sort of thing.
Great, great. Thank you.
It was great having you here in Seattle a couple of weeks ago.
It was great.
Sue?
Go ahead, Sue.
Hello.
You're on.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm in Los Angeles. My name is Sue. I do cranial sacral and movement therapy full time. I love to dance, especially Afro-based dances and Latin dances.
Great. Bonnie?
Wait.
There you go.
There you go.
Hi. What am I supposed to tell you?
Oh, just
I'm Bonnie, and I had Allison Rapp along with Mark Reese as my co-trainers in Morgantown, West Virginia. And Jeff came in the second year and did a whole bunch of amazing breathing lessons that had to do with belly and pelvic floor and all. And I just retired from being a part-time Feldenkrais teacher solely because I retired from nursing 10 years ago. And the reason I retired was because my heart wasn't in it. I really needed to take a break. I didn't care about it, and I didn't know that I would, what benefit I would get. Not that I haven't received tons of benefit. It took me like 25 years just to actually feel myself as myself. It was an amazing discovery. So, but now I just use it as my own. I have an apartment with a lot of floor space, and I like to just do lessons myself. Most lessons still go way too fast for me. I used to like to bicycle, and I still like to walk and swim.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Sarah, welcome.
My name is Sarah. I'm a Feldenkrais practitioner, and I really enjoy cycling, and I love to dance. And lately, I'm going back to my modern roots of dancing.
Great, great. Tony?
That would be Erica.
Oh, sorry, Erica. I'm sorry. All right.
Yeah. Hi. I'm in Calgary, and I'm a massage therapist. And I just already, from the little bit that I know of Feldenkrais and all the ATMs and the FIs that I've received, has just changed how I approach massage therapy. It's just, I don't look at it as a body anymore. It's more a nervous system. And I'm a Thai yoga massage therapist. So I really realize also that movement is the therapy rather than just about anything else. I'm pretty active. We ski and cycle and hike. It's pretty easy to be active out here. So
yeah, great. Thank you. And Kwan?
Hi, I'm Kwan. I am a relatively new practitioner. I graduated last year in January. So I've been spending mostly last year to try to build up a practice in San Francisco. And I enjoy playing the piano and singing.
Great. All right. So really, I think without further ado, I want to get into the real topic is, why do people become Feldenkrais practitioners? And we want to give sort of a variety of answers from the staff, and actually maybe some of the practitioners on the call might jump in with their stories, and then really let people ask questions and have a discussion about it. So I don't know, of the staff, anybody want to jump in first? Andrew?
I have to unmute. You can hear me?
I got you.
I got interested in Feldenkrais mainly when I was younger. I just sort of lucked into going to a workshop. And what I realized from just that first experience was that I've had a lot of experience with teachers and with learning with teachers. I was a classical musician. But I really didn't have a lot of experience understanding how I learned and how to teach myself. And the more I pursued the method, the more I just really enjoyed growing in that direction. And doing the training was sort of a secret wish of mine for many years, because I encountered the method when I was 16, so I didn't really know what I was doing, at that age. And when I did it, I knew I just wanted to study this path more and more. And now that I've been a practitioner for 15 years, I just find it to be an amazing experience to be able to work in a very sincere and open way with people and to introduce them to how they can live their life differently. and how they can actually improve their life on a daily basis. I find that still surprises me. And what I like about it is that it's a very human interaction. I'm not a medical practitioner. I'm not delivering a technique or an approach, but there is this sort of joint attention space that the person can enter, that we work in together, and they work at their own pace, and they can use me as a resource for whatever they want to improve. And I just found it to be, it's a lovely way to make a living. I found. I tried to make a living as a pianist, which I can tell you is an extremely difficult way to make a living, or it was for me anyway. And as a piano teacher, which I could do, but I knew that I just didn't want to do that for myself. And the more that I found myself realizing that I wanted to do this work for a living, the thing that I liked about it so much was that it related to everything in my life. And because I began to see how movement and posture and the way I use my attention was just applicable everywhere. And of course it was applicable to my own music making. That was really incredible to see how it affected that. But I just find it to be such an enjoyable way to make a living. And I get exposed to so many different people from different walks of life. There are practitioners who really specialize in a particular population or a niche, and I have not really done that consciously myself. But I do work with, I do get a fair number of classical musicians hear about me because I work in a music program in the summertime up in Vermont, and it's pretty amazing to get to work with people that are at a super high level of musical capacity, and to show them what they can do even better. And I'm already in awe of how they play to begin with, but to be able to function in that capacity with them is pretty exciting. So that's a small percentage of my client base, but that's just one of my personal joys of doing the work.
All right, great. Allison, yeah, go for it.
An interesting way to unmute. The flashing sign I haven't seen before, but I just reinstalled Windows and my last 2 days have been like a circus, not being able to do anything on my computer. So I'm actually really glad to be here, because before, when I signed on to Zoom, I had no video, I had no audio, and I couldn't hear anything. So we're doing well. I am, I'm an original Feldenkrais person from 1975. I started my Feldenkrais training with Moshe when I had no idea who he even was. Kind of an odd situation, but when I got to San Francisco in 1975, the training program that was happening was the first of its kind, and when he walked in the room, I didn't know which person he was. So 45 years later, I'm still here, and it's been a long and varied time in which I've had a general practice, been a trainer, taught all over the world, taught private work, taught musicians in Washington from the National Symphony and the Kennedy Center Opera House Orchestra. I've taught golfers from the Ladies PGA. I've taught actors and politicians, and somebody right now who's a very, I'm following him a lot because he's the Attorney General of one of the states that's protesting a lot of what's happening in the government right now, and he's one of my former clients, and it's just a very exciting thing to look back and see how many different kinds of people have come through my practice. And that's just from doing hands-on work and classes in awareness through movement. And then there was the yarn store, where I also taught Feldenkrais. And now there's Get the Practice You Want, which is how I express the business work that I'm doing with hands-on practitioners who are trying to build a practice. And all of that to me is teaching Feldenkrais. So I feel really strongly that there's a way to bring this work into whatever you do in your life and express yourself through it in the way that is most meaningful to you and takes best advantage of your entire life experience. And that's what I am doing and hope to do with people who are in the training program. That's it.
Great. Lila, do you want to come on and share? Or?
Sure, I'm here. Love to share. So I first found out about Feldenkrais because I'm a trained dancer, modern dancer mostly, and it was one of many modalities that were suggested as ways to actually maybe make a living, because being a dancer is very difficult to make a living. And I played around with a lot of different types of work, Alexander specifically, body mind centering, and Feldenkrais was the one that really just worked for me on lots of levels. Physically, it really helped me figure out what I was doing to hurt myself physically as a dancer, and then from there it just really kind of blossomed into the concepts behind the method and how one can apply them to basically every realm of life, which is what's happened. I had a practice for several years, which I shut down a few years ago to focus on other work. I still teach classes, lots of workshops, especially for dancers. You know, I think if it wasn't for the method and the way that I've chosen to work with it, life would not nearly be so, I wouldn't be able to appreciate life, not to get too kind of profound, but I really feel like it allows me to notice myself and the world around me in just so much of a clearer way. So that's my story.
Great. I'm going to go ahead and jump in and let Jeff have the last story, and then we'll go into a discussion. So I'm the program manager for the training. And I think what's so interesting about this work is everybody comes to it through a very different journey and path. And mine is relatively unique among the people on this call and just in general. I started off life as a technical person, came up through worked in Silicon Valley, worked at Microsoft, and really being a practitioner was the last thing I ever imagined I would do growing up. It's really quite amazing. But what happened was when I left Microsoft, I started trying to get in shape, and that brought me to the racquetball court. And the racquetball court brought me to injuries, and injuries brought me to Feldenkrais. And when I encountered Feldenkrais, I realized in my first meeting with the practitioner, I realized something very important, that the practitioner knew a lot more about my body than I knew. That my practitioner could tell what was easy and what was not easy for me, and I couldn't tell that. And that I really wasn't very in touch with my own body, that I'd spent 40 years developing my mind and my technical skills, my management skills, but was really pretty out of touch in some ways with myself. And I've always delighted in taking joy in learning. But this sort of learning was really hard. This was way harder for me to get in touch and sense my own body than it was for me to learn how to program a computer. That was easy. But it was fascinating, it was challenging, and it asked me to grow in a way that, for me, was just very exciting. And I ended up doing the training, and I realized that not only did it bring me joy to do the work, but it brought me joy to help to teach. If you want to learn something, the best way is to try to teach it. And I just found that it continued to challenge me and excite me in ways that very few things did. So I have a practice. I really enjoy seeing a variety of clients. So I have to say, the clients I typically see are in their sort of 50 to 70-year-old range. And I've gotten to that point where what was good enough is no longer good enough, and they really need to take their own innate capacity to learn and use it to help themselves learn these very basic movements: walking, sitting, standing. And I really gained quite a bit for myself in that, and working with them. So it's been delightful. I want to welcome on to the call Alice. Alice is also an assistant trainer. Will be working in the training, and quite delighted that you're able to make it. Yeah. Jeff, you're muted, Alice.
Where am I?
There you go.
Okay, I unmuted myself. Very happy to be here.
Good. Good. So I'm going to put you right on the spot. We've sort of introduced everybody, and everybody sort of told it's a very short story about how they can be a practitioner and what they love about it. Except Jeff. We'll get to Jeff last. But do you want to jump in and share?
Okay.
Your timing is perfect.
Timing is perfect. Okay, good. The timing of my discovering Feldenkrais was perfect. It's one of those serendipitous moments when something comes to your attention that has never been in your attention before, and kind of grabs all your attention and says, yes, this is very interesting. So that's how I found I had been injured, and I had heard about this, and I had actually many years ago in Vancouver, Moshe did some workshops, and I had heard about his workshops, and it wasn't the right time for me because I went and I left. And then a number of years later, I found the book, and then I was injured, and somebody was doing a workshop. Gabi Yaron was doing a workshop in Seattle, and I went down from here, which wasn't an easy thing for me to do at the time. And it was like a different world had opened up for me. It was like something that makes sense, that made sense in my world, that made sense in my sense of myself. And it just totally intrigued me. And I kept studying by myself and looking for workshops and looking for people. And then visiting a friend in California, she said, oh, you know that stuff you're always talking about? Somebody's doing a class in her living room. It was right after Amherst finished, I guess. And so I went to the class, and this person told me about a new training coming up in San Rafael, California in 3 months. And so I jumped on it. And that was the beginning, and it made a huge difference. And it was such a wonderful way to discover myself and to discover working with other people. That was different from the ways I had worked with both myself and others until then. And it continues to be a wonderful discovery process. I'm always learning, and it's always interesting.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. And Jeff, would you like to give a short something, and then we'll open it up?
Yeah, I think also Alice has to tell you that she's a trained psychologist and also a dancer. So there's the background of each person here is what they brought to the work, and and the lens that they see the work through continues to be multifaceted, so to speak. In 1972, I walked into a speech class at Oregon State University. I was a 5-year basketball player at the school. And my professor, who always started the class with some kind of Charlotte Silver relaxation process, did about 15 minutes of some kind of crazy stuff that you look at your finger and you look at your thumb, you follow your thumb, you turn and you come back, and then you turn your head opposite from your thumb. And there was more implicit intelligence in those 15 minutes than there was in 5 years of running up and down the basketball court. And it so happened that he had the Awareness to Movement book at his house, and I immediately stole the book and read it, and somehow knew that this was for me. There was some implicit quality that had spoken to me. And so it was in 1977, I'd moved down to the Bay Area, and I got to the Bay Area to study for a PhD in transpersonal psychology. I had had no way of knowing about the training program that had taken place in San Francisco in 1975, beginning in 1975. And to tell you the truth, I was devastated. The word on the streets was that Moshe was never going to teach again. And it turned out that another one of the teachers in the program, Jerry Karzan, had made arrangements with Moshe, and I'm sure Allison knows more about the backstory of this than probably anybody here, but that had made arrangements for Moshe to begin a new training program in Amherst, Massachusetts in 1980. And I was in the then president of the Feldenkrais Guild's office receiving one of my first FI lessons, and on his counter was the just came in that day application for the training program, to which I had my application in by the next morning. So, and it was clear to me, I was studying at the Institute of Transpersonal Psychologists. I could have become a psychologist. Aikido and Tai Chi were part of the curriculum. I'd studied in Tai Chi fairly extensively. I'd studied in Mexico a few years before that, a lot of yoga fairly extensively. I had access to physical therapy, to chiropractic, to the world of psychotherapy. I could have become an Aikido teacher. I could have gone on to teach Tai Chi. And there was something so foundational in the Feldenkrais method in the sense that understanding the very building blocks of how we acquire new information and new learning, because as Laura said, it's inherent within us learning. The foundation of the process that Moshe established was the basis from which I could have gone into and used the Feldenkrais method to study any of the other processes and enhanced the process of Aikido or whatever significantly. So when I studied with Moshe, I was at the same time still studying Aikido, and it was exquisite to spend the day in Awareness to Movement with Moshe, and to walk into the dojo in the evening, and to have this completely new orientation, this new organization with myself, this new way of carrying my head, and to immediately go into an Aikido class and find that the process of the class, I had another level of sensitivity, another level of organization that I could bring into the moment. So it was very, very rich time for me. And it was absolutely clear for me that this would be my life's work. There was never a hesitation that when I was studying with Moshe or in the processes leading up to that, but especially once I started studying with Moshe, that this would be the work that I would practice for the rest of my life. And it has been a wonderful process. I'm a trainer who maintains a private practice. I see between 6 and 7 people a day. As was mentioned, I see people from every walk of life. I have a fascination with, because of my background, I'm very, very interested in working not only with physical integrity, which is helping the people who have physical injury, but with people who have profound emotional wounds, and to help them find within themselves a kind of dignity that only can be found in the way that they're organized to act. It's not something that is recovered, I don't think, through a therapeutic process. I think that if you're going to put the cream on the cherry on top of the cake for the people who have been through a long therapeutic process, they still have to have a profound sense of what it is to be in their body in such a way that they very cleverly, clearly, efficiently support themselves in a way that they can express their own dignity. So I enjoy working with physical integrity, emotional dignity, and with the question of what's health. And health can be described as the ability to meet the changing moment in such a way that you swim upstream. Because there's so much complexity and so much difficulty in daily life that for people to have the resources to meet the changing moment, to be someone who helps people find those internal resources is an honor. It's a profound honor for me to work with people who are really seeking what it is to be connected to their self. So that's the nature of why I became a Feldenkrais practitioner, and what it is I hope to continue to convey to people who are interested in working with people in these realms: physical integrity, emotional dignity, and health.
Right.
Did I take too long?
No, I do great.
Okay, thanks.
All right. But I do, I really do want to make sure we have time, which we do, for people to ask questions, for those who are not practitioners. Is this something you can imagine yourself? And is there any concerns, thoughts, questions, excitement that comes up as you imagine this for yourself? Or just anything that anybody said that you want to comment on?
And make sure you can ask any of us. I don't think you need to ask, if there's any particular one of us that you would like to query, please do so. Someone have a...
And just raise your hand and Jeff will unmute you. Yeah. Sue?
Go ahead, Sue.
Okay. Do you have any idea of what percentage of certified Feldenkrais practitioners are working full-time? Just curious. I mean, is it like, are most of the people doing it just for their own benefit, or only find that they could do it half-time, and like how many people actually can fill up a practice doing it?
Finger on the button. Well, I don't have statistics, but I can tell you that I talk to a lot of practitioners who wish they had a full practice. I don't understand why. I mean, it's just not reasonable, because there are 7 billion people in the world, and most of them hurt in one way or another. And, a fair number of them want to be on the path to developing their potential. And so I really don't understand. So when you ask the question, I know that it's an important one. I don't really have the answer, but I know that the number of people who have the practice they want is too small. And I know that the number of people who are working full-time is smaller than we wish. And that part of the reason for that is that people are not working. They're not finding out how to build a practice. And so they don't build one, and then the work doesn't get known. And that's a big part of what we hope to turn around in this training program, because I've been teaching people for about 9 years how to get a practice. And one of the things that I've heard since the beginning was, this should be included in the training programs. This should be part of what the Guild offers. This should be available. This should be part of. This should be part of. This should be part of. And it never has been until now. And I think that it's a testament to Jeff's vision of what he wants to create as is the outcome for participants in this training program, that they will have a complete understanding of what they need to do to build a practice. What we're going to do is we're going to dive into what it means to be self-employed, how to let go of things that are not important to do right now that many practitioners get wound up and distracted by, how to have an enrollment conversation that makes you feel like yourself and not like you're, sleazy or icky or manipulating the person in front of you. How to charge an amount of money that is reasonable for what you can offer and can earn a living with. How to make that happen during the training so that when you graduate, you've already got clients. How to give a talk. And most people don't get the results they want from a talk, so they stop doing it. And yet it's well known that speaking to a group is the fastest way to build a practice. So what we need is for people to know how to do it in a way that's effective. So all of that is going to be part of this training. And I think what I'm hoping is that the number is going to start shooting up. The percentages of people who graduate from a training knowing how to do it and actually making it happen will be much higher with this training.
I think, am I on mute?
You're unmuted. I hear you.
Oh, you can hear me. I mean, I know like the percentage of acupuncturists, for instance, after their training who end up closing shop because they don't have the business skills. I mean, it's a hard thing to run your own business, because I'm doing that right now, and I'm not looking for this to guarantee me anything, but I think one of the things when communicating information about Feldenkrais in particular is the languaging. It's kind of, the way it's taught is very indirect and very just trying to create an experience. But how does that understanding translate to directly talking about it in a way that can make a person interested enough to try it, or to make it speak to them like, oh, I get it. This is something that will,
This is one of the biggest problems that practitioners have, and we're going to be addressing it in this training and helping you understand how to do it in a way that feels completely natural to you and authentic and really like you. I think some of this, it's like it's a big ball of wax. There's a lot of stuff involved in this, and part of it is about the fact that people don't want to have a business. It's like what we want. I want to practice. I want to help people. I want to do the work. And the problem is that it's impossible to keep doing the work if you don't have people coming, and there's no business that supports doing the work. Then what you have is a hobby. And so, it takes a training program, I think, that is focused on creating practitioners who have a practice in order to have the space in the training program to teach those skills.
I'd also throw in, thank you, Allison. I'd also throw in, I think it is sometimes common for Feldenkrais to be described in using magical language. And I just know as a techie, as someone who's relatively literal, one of the things I so appreciated about studying with Jeff was his precision that allowed me to feel like, yes, this isn't, well, you just sort of do this and then something, right? I mean, there are really clear principles. And one of the other things about this training is we're very clear that it's going to be a principles-based training from the beginning, right? We need, as practitioners, we need to understand the basic principles of what good movement is from the beginning, and to be able to communicate that very articulately to our clients. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna just jump in real quick, and then I'm gonna go to Jane, and then I'll go to Erica. One of the things that this training program is not a training program for the general public who want to have an intensive experience. It's the people that are invited into this training program come with the clear intention that they want to in some way bring this work to their life into their business life, into their work life in some way. So there's the people who come to this training program will be with a like-minded group of people rather than people who want to experience the work intensively. The other thing that I would say is that it is the goal of this training program to place the Feldenkrais method in the market in a different light. Instead of thinking of the work as a gentle, passive movement work, to really, really think of this work as a process that supports human transformation. And without that getting too airy-fairy, but to have very, very clearly defined, what does it mean for a person in a concrete way to experience themselves not being bound by their heritage, by their habitual life circumstances. And what does it mean to have that kind of personal freedom and skill to live outside of that heritage? So we have to position the work in the marketplace differently. And part of the training process is to have very, very fine practitioners who graduate, who want to be a part of placing this work in the marketplace in a different way, in a very dynamic way. Okay.
So Jeff, let me just tack something quick on here, because part of when you mentioned transformation, one of the things that I would say over the last 9 years in talking to practitioners is that people say that they got transformation from their training, but they can't describe it. And one of the things that's going to be happening in this training program is a lot of focus on how to look at your own process that Candy Canino is going to be working with you on, to help you understand how to look at where you are, where you want to go, and what it takes to get there. So, and this is a new thing also in a training program, because it really is bringing people back to relying on themselves for more than we have done in the past, including what does it mean that I got transformation, and being able to talk about that in a way that people never have been able to.
Jane, go ahead.
This is a more practical question. After the training finishes, is there some kind of like requirement to do like further training every year to be able to use like the Feldenkrais name, or like is there some kind of like fee you have to pay every year to have the privilege to use the Feldenkrais name? Is that that kind of seems something, there's some kind of like franchise or something like that?
No. The Feldenkrais Guild of North America is responsible for the service marks of the method: awareness to movement, Feldenkrais Practitioner, functional integration, the terms of the method. The law requires that they oversee the ongoing educational standard of its members. So the members have an ongoing educational process that they have to maintain, and the Guild has a process for them by which to meet a number of hours of continuing education every year. And how they do that is up to them. They could attend conferences, they can work on private mentoring. That's a wide open field as to how one goes about that. It would be my hope that every person who wants to become a practitioner thirsts after ongoing learning and education every year. This is not a method of I'm going to learn it. This is a lifetime study. The nature of the process, the refinement, the ability to find the resource within yourself to continue to find the process of organizing yourself to meet the needs of whoever your public will be, is not something you don't just learn the Feldenkrais method. You learn the process of the Feldenkrais method, and you learn to utilize the aspects of the Feldenkrais method to help people. There isn't an it in that regard. So
right. I also would like to say that it is the Feldenkrais method is a profession, and as a profession, it has professional standards and continuing education requirements, like any other profession that we.
What are there checkups or something, or you just like, like do you have to report what you're doing to a
You're
certain
responsible
authority.
in North America. You're responsible for having your own educational plan, and one of the things that you're going to learn, as I mentioned about Candy Canino, what she's going to teach you how to do is the kind of process that you would engage in an ongoing way, and it would be that process that you would report on. It's not that somebody's checking up on you, and there are no Feldenkrais police. And the other thing is that it depends on where you live. Some of this depends on the laws and who runs Feldenkrais organizations in the country where you live. So FGNA is for North America and I believe Mexico at the moment.
Canada.
And
South America.
Canada, North and South America as well.
Yeah.
So, but there's also an Australian guild, and there's a European and a German guild, and there are guilds all over, and they, depending on what the laws are in your country for using the service mark and how those countries, how those organizations in those countries have taken that on or not. That's what determines.
Training in the country that you're in, rather than
you
like
don't
I
have
did
to
that
take
training.
No.
Go ahead, Jeff.
If you are a member of a certified training from one of the organizations, the Australian organization or the European Council or the Feldenkrais Guild of North America, or from the German tab at this point, if you're under the auspices of any of those trainings, we have had a worldwide agreement that a graduate from any of the training programs qualifies to work in any other country. The person only has to meet whatever the guidelines are of that country. I mean, the Japanese Guild may have laws relative to the utilization of the service marks that are completely unique to the situation in Japan. So it's just a question of where you live. But as far as having your training program be the basis for you to practice, this program is fully accredited. In fact, we got our full accreditation today. The full accreditation finally came through today. We've been working for a very long time, and so I was pleased to open my email today and find that we had received final accreditation. So that means that this program will serve you to work in any other country in the world.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. So Erica, go ahead. I've got you. Go ahead. You're already on.
All right. So I became interested in Feldenkrais because as a massage therapist, I was always sore. And even upping how many massages I got didn't sort it out. But the Feldenkrais chap here, Rob Black, got me. I might be losing internet every now and again, so hopefully I don't disappear. And I the therapy, but I understand that we're not to sell it as therapy, which I find difficult and restrictive. It's to be sold as an education, and that people want bang for their buck. A lot of people are going to yoga. They're paying upwards of $20 now for an hour and a half. But a Feldenkrais ATM can be $20, and this is hard to sell in a sense of this is going to improve. It's not something you can hook into. But I feel like as a therapy, so that I don't hurt, I get out of bed now, I do not hurt. That's huge, and
So,
that's pursuing this.
There are again legal precedents depending on again which country you're in as to what your description is. So in general, the therapists are people that are licensed to be healthcare providers. And if we were licensed in the state of Washington, I would have to be licensed as a massage therapist in order to practice. And the Massage Therapy Board would have some say over what my ongoing education would be, which is not something I'm particularly interested in. The question then is to discover on a very deep basis what's the educational rationale for this work, and why we maintain ourselves as educators rather than therapists. And the main ingredient is again going back to Laura's first comment, is that inherent within every human being is the capacity to learn. Our job as practitioners is to establish the context in which a person enables themselves to utilize their own inherent capacity for learning. And again, like I said, the process of placing ourselves in the market with a different understanding, so that we don't end up in this question of the yoga world, which has unfortunately become very exercise based in general, or the Feldenkrais world, which in some sense is to enjoy these gentle movements and you'll feel better, which in fact is true, but it isn't going to sell. It isn't going to fill your classes very easily. So the question is on what basis will you fill your classes? And ultimately you'll fill your classes with people that become vitally curious about their own innate capacity. And you have to be able to sell them on how to become really curious about their innate capacity. One of the things to look at, for example, is you look around yourself and how many people now have gone into the world of mindfulness meditation at this point in time. And mindfulness meditation is offering what? It's offering a disidentification from your historical mind. Yeah? It's basically offering you a way to find some kind of calmness within yourself. Neurologically, the Feldenkrais method has advantages over the meditation processes for bringing a person into a quiet place, in addition to finding a particular alignment with themselves that is extraordinarily clear. So again, we have to continue to realign ourselves as to how we're going to position the work in the world. So.
Yeah, may I talk to you?
Please.
Yeah, my sister's a transformational coach, so she's very much big into that part of coaching, and that seems to be becoming more mainstream. And what you just mentioned, the mindful meditation, again, is more mainstream. And finding a way through those doors could be helpful. Now, do you see an issue with me using my practice to sneak in? That's how I feel I can survive this, is that I will be using this information. This will be when I set people up, I wouldn't be giving them exercises. It's an ATM.
Right.
Or,
No, there's absolutely no difficulty with you incorporating the work, but I can tell you that many of people who have been longtime practitioners eventually close, they take that shingle down and they develop their practice. So
that's fine. If that happens, fine.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but for the time being, of course, you have to do whatever you have to do in order to maintain your life circumstance.
And try to hook, like in my opinion, to try and hook people. It's so frustrating to me. It's like the biggest secret on earth, and people aren't seeing this. And I do. That is the scary thing about getting into this. I am so enthusiastic. And I've stopped going on about it for the last 4 years. People just don't want to hear me talk about it anymore. I just don't understand why there's not more people doing this.
It's a massive paradigm shift for people, and the entire process of the training is to deal with that paradigm shift within yourself. There will be, because the nature of learning and the nature of succeeding are two different things. So the process of learning. Now, I mean, When you stop to think of the complexity and the uncertainty that we're going to face in life in the next 20 years, what resources are people going to need, and is there something in the world today that will provide them with the resources? Can we look forward in our perspective, the Feldenkrais method, as to how we can meet the demands of the complexity that people are going to face? Again, we're going to have to continually reposition ourselves in the marketplace.
Well, I want to jump in for a second. That's okay. We're coming up to 6. The staff is happy to stay, but I want to be really respectful of people's times. So I just want to get this in before people, if they feel a need to leave.
Suzanne also had her hand up, so.
Yeah, no, we'll stay, but I just want to, if people need to leave, we're really happy to, everybody here is happy to further engage. I do recommend, if you haven't already done so, looking at feldenkraistrainingacademy.com. We do have a pre-training workshop coming up in Vancouver. We have more of these calls scheduled. I just want to make sure everybody knows that we really want to continue to engage, and just let us know if you do have more questions, and then we can continue. But in case people need to leave at 6, I just wanted to say all that.
I am very happy to meet with every single person who wants to spend some time with me. I can make a personal Zoom call, and I'm happy to answer questions on a more personal basis as well, as Suzanne knows, and other people. So, Suzanne, go ahead. Do you want to? I've unmuted you. Do you want to ask your question?
Well, I wanted to give a shout out to Alice for talking about serendipity and bringing you to Feldenkrais, because that's what I feel like for me. It's like, oh my gosh, the universe just brought this to my doorstep. And so that was really cool to hear. So I have 2 questions that are kind of very disparate. So the first is, in terms of myself having been injured a lot and been recovering through all kinds of methods and finally landing here, to think about becoming a practitioner. The practitioner that I'm working with says, you're going to become so much more organized through this training. And I wanted to see kind of what other people's experiences were when you started practicing. Did you find that you hurt yourself? Is that something that is true? You do organize yourself more, and that's not a concern. So that's my first question. So I'll take that, I guess. And I don't know, whoever wants to jump in to answer that.
Andrew, why don't you grab that one? Let me unmute you. Go ahead.
So to your question about, like, when you start practicing, do you hurt yourself? Is that what you're sort of asking? Like, in the process of giving lessons, how do you hold up under just the physical nature of the work?
Right.
Yeah, I was lucky as a beginning practitioner. Halfway through my training, I quit my other job and started working with the woman who I was carpooling with to the training. She and her husband owned a physical therapy practice, and they were both Feldenkrais teachers. Or she was in the training with me. Her husband had gone through the training. And so I got a lot of early work. And then after I graduated from my training, a few years after that, they opened with another teacher, the Feldenkrais Institute of New York, which was this big 5,000 square foot training space in Manhattan. And I was the first teacher hired there. I was the on-site manager. I was the administrative director, the teacher, the chief cook and bottle washer. And so I started to give a lot of lessons. And I've been a practitioner for a few years, but it took a toll. But the reason it took a toll was because of how I was organized. And after working there for about 2 years, I met Jeff, and I started mentoring with Jeff. And I've mentored with Jeff for the last 10 years. And all I can tell you is this. The precision that you'll learn in this training, I wish I'd had in my training. The way that the material is going to be shown to you and unfolded to you has such a great degree of specificity. Also, the way you're going to be encouraged to practice during the training and then the time you're away from the training and the kind of support you'll get from the staff away from the training did not exist in my training. Nobody even really stressed to anyone that you should be practicing the lessons. It's no wonder few people, there's not enough people have full-time practices. It does take work. But all I can tell you is after I started mentoring with Jeff, or let's say this, before I was working with Jeff, I would give 6 or 7 lessons a day. I was a busy guy. And usually after lunch, I wanted to make money, but I didn't really want to go back to work. I was tired. By the late afternoon, I felt heavy. I felt fatigued. And that went away rather quickly. And it went away not because of some magic bullet, but because I understood more specifically how to attend to myself as I worked. And the work that you're learning in the training is what you're going to be teaching the people you're working with. And guess what? You have to embody it too. Because the story about the pain, the associative process of the pain, the story you have of the injury, and the injury was real, but the reason the injury keeps getting maintained is that it's written in how you're organized and how you continue to organize yourself. And that's kind of the cool thing about this work, is that you can grow and mature as you can get better and better as you go. I'm 47 now, and I was an athletic kid. I played classical piano. I was pretty physically adept, but I'm in the best physical shape of my life now. And it's not because I run marathons or whatever. I don't work out, 7 days a week or whatever. But all I can tell you is that the happiness that I have in my body is way past what it was when I was in my 20s. And you can talk to people that know me. I work pretty hard at it. I love the method, and I've really dug very deeply into it with Jeff. But it does work. So it's from the stand. I've had many massage therapists when other person mentioned about how being a massage therapist and how you're sore. I definitely had that experience early on working as a Feldenkrais practitioner. You're working with other people's weight. You're trying to be delicate. You're trying to be precise. That can lead to a lot of tension. But this work is pretty amazing because the way you're embodied is what potentiates the quality in the lesson. And it's not about how much force you're putting into the person to affect change. That the quality of the interaction, the competence that you bring to the interaction is not done through how much force you're putting into the person. You're not delivering a therapeutic load, or I don't know how to really state it or think about it. But it comes from the quality of your organization, and then the wonderful thing of actually showing and modeling that with the people you work with. So I should just to simply answer your question, yes, working with people requires working with weight and organizing yourself well, but you're gonna learn to do it to a very skillful degree in this program.
Okay, thank you.
I hope that answers your question.
I'm kind of known in the Feldenkrais world for delving into these kind of questions, and not just delving into them, but spending years digging into these aspects. Because when I started my own practice in 1983, I would see 8 people a day, and I would end up the day with a knife in my back. And then by serendipity, in a serendipitous exchange, someone told me, I think it was Jerry Carson, who's going to work in this training. He said, Moshe said in Allison's training in San Francisco, he said, I can lift someone's head without changing the tone in my arms. And I didn't have a clue what that meant. And I was already, a university basketball player, fit, Aikidoist, very good athlete, et cetera, but I did not know what it meant to lift someone's head without changing the tone in my arms. And it took me 8 years to uncover that. And I have lots of those little things that I've uncovered. and I deal with them specifically and directly in the training group to give you the cues as to how to seek these answers within yourself.
Very specifically, very directly, no woo-woo. If I can just add that. I can tell you the first time I met Jeff, I told him about my long-standing shoulder problem from playing piano. This was a long-standing issue. The injury had healed years ago, but because of the way I was, that thing hung on through my training program, years after my training program, okay? If I didn't get enough sleep, my arm felt kind of crappy, da-da-da-da. I'd do some ATM, it would feel better, but then it would always come back. Now, I was not a newbie, but all I can tell you is that in one session with Jeff, and it wasn't because Jeff did magic stuff with me, but he met me right where I was, and he showed me how I kept screwing it up. I was ready for it, and he was very direct with me, and he was very patient, and he showed me specifically, and he waited for me to understand what he was talking about. And all I can tell you is that that context was extremely useful for me, because I wasn't just going to have some experience and then an hour later come out of it and say, wow, well, that was great. He took the time to show me specifically what I was doing. And all I can tell you is that that arm never bothered me again. Now, it wasn't magic. I kept working at it. That was the actual secret, is that after that, I kept working on it. But now I actually had a path to keep it better and to not fall back into the old way. And that's priceless, because that's what every client, that's the elusive obvious, is that, the clients that do well and improve, it's not just going to be because they have the successful session. It's also going to be because the specificity you bring to them enables them to start living a different way and actually deliberately understanding what they're doing to some degree, so that they actually do learn and they mature. They grow past this old crap. They can see the difference between what they were doing then and what they're doing now. That's a priceless exchange if you can get there. And in my opinion, this training is going to be the place where you'll learn how to do that.
Okay, great. Can I ask my second question?
Sure.
You talked about being fully accredited now. Does that mean that the program, in terms of competencies that you've laid out, like with so many hours, 100 hours, then you get to teach the ATM, and then the same thing with the FI, or is that still up in the air?
No, that's all. The training program with the graduation requirements as stated, and I'm going to write it. I'm writing a curriculum page for the website so that we'll go through this even more clearly. So hopefully I'll have it up at some point in time, relatively soon. But the graduation requirements, which are more stringent than any other training program in the world, are in fact intact in that certification.
Okay.
So I'm kind of spacing out here. Say your question again real quickly, because
So you had talked about that it wasn't common that you could get approved to teach FIs before the completion of the program.
That's true. That's still intact.
Okay, so that's what got accredited then?
That's part of what got accredited.
Okay. And I did want to thank Andrew for your answer, by the way. It was very great. Thank you.
Jeff, why don't you clarify what could have sounded like code between you and Suzanne for people who don't know what you're talking about? What is the special thing about FI and program?
In the typical Feldenkrais training program, one normally goes through first 2 years of training and they practice awareness through movement, and at the end of that 2 years they give one awareness through movement practicum process by which they are, and then the guild, the Feldenkrais Guild of North America in this case, and this is around the world, no matter what the guild is, authorizes them to be able to teach awareness through movement as long as they, and to utilize the service marks of the Feldenkrais method as long as they are still enrolled in the training program. Once they graduate from the training program, of course, then they become certified as practitioners and they have the rights to use the terms. The other process that takes place is that the second 2 years of most training programs is that you study and you begin to practice functional integration in the last 2 years, and in general, through 2 practicum demonstrations or supervised practicum processes, working with a person from the public for 2 times, then that's the basis for certification. This training program will require documented 50 ATM lessons before one can apply for their ATM practicum. And then there will be a stringent process that the student demonstrates that they understand the general layout of what it is to be an awareness to movement teacher. The concurrent with that will be people who will be able to, when they practice and document that they've done 50 FI lessons, then they will have the right to apply for their FI practicum, and they'll also go through a stringent process of examining in a self-reflective way, examining their propensity to and their ability to practice, their competence to practice. And the Feldenkrais Guild, for the first time, has given us a dispensation that you'll be able to practice functional integration prior to graduation.
And charge money for it.
What's that?
And charge for it.
And charge for it. That has never been done before. Now there's a proviso. The Guild has held me to that. You have to be 300 hours and 700 hours into the training program, but we as a group are going to continue to challenge that, because if we have a group of people that can demonstrate proficiency, then I think we would be it would be to our advantage to take that back into the Feldenkrais Guild and say, we have this group of people, they demonstrate this proficiency. What say you? There's no reason that they should not be able to practice and make a living while they're practicing. So we're trying to lead the way into a higher standard for what it is to be a Feldenkrais practitioner in this training program. Go ahead, Erica. I got you.
Good, thanks. So does this mean that you will be training FIs right from the get-go, or are you doing it the other way too? Like, I'm just understanding this, that you're doing ATM.
No, you'll be in this training program. We're going to ask that you have your Feldenkrais table by the second segment out of 12 segments, and that the second segment is completely devoted to working with your own self-organization around working around the table.
Okay. Thanks.
We'll start from the beginning to the end. The entire process will be related to self-organization, and with that will come the developmental, the processes of the developmental sequences of the baby developing, the evolutionary basis for the human being relative to gravity. We'll have my friend Roger Russell will come and join us every single segment. He'll zoom in and we'll have him giving lectures to us for 3 to 6 hours every segment on Feldenkrais in the brain. And then we'll have a segment with him for 10 days of him teaching Feldenkrais in the brain, so that the neurophysiological basis for the Feldenkrais method will be in fact understood by the people in the training program. Now,
I hope I don't go on ad nauseum about how to get this out there, but I do find that neuroplasticity and how our brain works is a real good hook to the public, particularly right now, right? Because it's...
Yeah, again, it's I mean, Moshe, when he was alive himself, he was in vogue. Now, because of who he was, and there are practitioners who are charismatic and who are capable, and they work very, very nicely and are successful in their work. The general work itself now has to stand on its own in a much more significant way. I do want to say one thing, that in this process of becoming a practitioner, that as a practitioner, it's not what you do. As a practitioner, it's your ability to create the context for learning and to be able to ask questions. How capable are you to ask unique questions that foster a person's attention, turning their attention into themselves so that they again begin to find the answers within themselves. So as a practitioner, you're not only learning the skills the skill set that will provide you, but the major skill set that you'll be working with is, how do I ask questions? And questions means, how do I ask questions with my touch? How do I invite the person's nervous system to pay attention in such a way that they again seek within themselves in a pre-verbal way in the parts of the brain that puts together and synergizes material. How do we invite that part of the brain to take new information and to synergize it into new material into such a way it becomes new behavior?
I just want to mention that if you are thinking of becoming a Feldenkrais practitioner and you are thinking of earning a living with that skill set, I have written a booklet that I'm putting the link to it. There's no opt-in, there's nothing. It's just there when you click the link. And what it is that what I think, after many, many years of working with practitioners and teaching and trainings all around the world, these are the two most important questions that you should ask yourself before you decide to take a training program, if you are thinking, especially if you're thinking of becoming a practitioner who is capable of earning a living. So you're free to go get that without giving away any information.
I sense we're coming to a close. Lori, any last words?
No, I guess just one last reiteration. If there are questions, that we really want to hear them, and we're here to engage with you. So let us know. And please, check out the website, check out the upcoming events, the upcoming Zoom talks. And I really appreciate that you came, and I hope it was helpful.
Bye-bye.
I think I'm done, sweetie. I've lost them.
All right.
Yeah, and I'm stuck now, babe. I lost the Zoom, but okay, I get rid of it here, and I need this to go to me. I think I'm
Are you your camera still on?
So just a second. Let me copy this. And where's this mail? This button. I know. Oh, there. Okay.